So good morning everyone. Today we are talking about stored procedures. So what is stored procedures? A stored procedure is a prepared SQL code that you can save so the code can be reused over and over again. So if you have an SQL query that you have to write over and over again, you can save it as a stored procedure and just call it to execute it. You can also pass parameters to a stored procedure so that the stored procedure can act based on the parameters values that is passed. We'll talk about that later. So more or less, a stored procedure is like a comparison between a modern gun and an old-time gun, such as a flintlock. It needs to be manually reloaded and like creating procedures, manually typing it. However, if you use stored procedures, it's automatic and we can use it as much as we want. So first, the delimiter. A MySQL client program uses semicolons as delimiter to execute statements separately. So if we use statements inside the store parameter using the same delimiters, there will be a lot of mess. So in here, first, we change the delimiter to $signs. And after that, we create the procedure, we begin the procedure, create the procedure statements, and we end using the delimiter that we set earlier. And after that, we change the delimiter back to a semicolon. So the steps are here. Change the default delimiter, use after the end keyword, and change default delimiter back to a semicolon. Next, here is the syntax for stored procedure. So we'll talk about it more in the next part. So here is a custom code of a stored procedure. So as you can see here, here's the delimiter and here's the code. So we're going to name it get customers, and we're going to select customer ID, last name, and contact number from the customer table and order it by customer ID. So we run it, and next we're going to call it. So we're going to say call get customers. And here are the customers that we have. We can also run it using routines and clicking execute. So here is the output, and that's all for the basics on stored procedures.
Hello everyone, I am Irusha May and I am the one who will tackle about the advantages and disadvantages of stored procedure. First advantages of stored procedure is it increases performance of application. Although a stored procedure does not immediately speed up individual requests, it does provide some significant performance advantages. If your inquiries are sufficiently complicated, by storing intermediate results in temp tables, for example, SPs can operate more efficiently by limiting the amount of back and forth communication between the tables. The second advantage is it reduces the traffic between application and database server. Between the database and the user interface, data access restrictions are supported because end user can enter or modify data. Because a single batch of code is run to execute the directives. This implies that only the call to run the procedure rather than each individual line of code is delivered across a network. So, next, reusable and transparent to any application which want wants to use it without the need to rewrite the code by numerous users or client programs. The SQL Server stored procedure, when executed for the first time, creates a plan and stores it in the buffer pool so that the plan can be reused when it executes next time. This allows us to simply adjust the code inside the stored procedure without having to restart or deploy the application. Next is the security. Stored procedure reduces the threat of eliminating direct access to the tables. In order to prevent source code inside the stored procedure from being seen, we can also encrypt them as we create them. Utilize third-party of software to decrypt the encrypted stored procedures, such as Apex SQL decrypt. What is Apex SQL? Apex SQL is comprehensive tool suite that addresses security issues while streamlining and automating SQL Server database management and development procedures. So for the next, we have um, these advantages. First is the database server high load is both memory and processors. Instead of focusing the storing and retrieving data, you could be asking the database server to perform a number of logical operations which is not well designed for a database server. You might be requiring the database server to carry out a number of rational thoughts that are not well suited for a database server when storing and retrieving data. Next is the only contains declarative SQL. Stored procedure constructs are not designed for developing complex and flexible business logic due to the fact that stored procedures are designed to execute simple expressions like select, insert, or update. Third is, next, difficult to debug. You have a lot of process like format your code, always be debugging, keep track of temp tables, know your nulls, know your variables. If you are writing dynamic SQL, always add a debug mode in a lot of Blitz procs where we use temporary objects. I'll set up a debug block that will select data out of all the temp tables we've put data into. There are two ways you can do this. Either create a variable logging temp table and insert the variable name and value to it, or just use raise error to print the contents to the console. So for the last disadvantages of the procedures is not easy to write and maintain because it required a specialized skill set that not all application developers possess. These lead problems into both application development and maintenance phase is what basically this fourth point means. Suppose we have thousands of soap processors in application to maintain all the stored processors and their parameters or their granted permission or skillful set person needed. And that would be the advantages and disadvantages of the stored procedures. Thank you for listening.
Hi guys, I am Ken Paler and I'm here to talk about using and assigning variables in stored procedures. Here's our learning objective for today's topics. In the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to learn about variables in stored procedures, and learn how to declare and use variables. Let's start with using variables in stored procedures, its syntax, and examples. So what is a variable? A variable is a named data object whose value can change during the stored procedure execution. You typically use variables in stored procedures to hold immediate results. So here's an example on where should a variable should be stored inside a stored procedure. Na siya sa begin and end block. Begin and nadiri ang stored procedure. These variables are local to the stored procedure. So before using a variable, you must declare it. In order to declare a variable, you must follow the following statement. So you can declare a variable inside the stored procedure with this syntax. So the syntax is declare space variable name, space data type, and its size, space default, space its default value. So in this syntax, what happened is first, specify the name of the variables after the declare keyword. So the variable must follow the naming rules of MySQL table column names. So you must use underscore, hyphen, and so on. Hindi ka pwede mag-space lang kay bawal siya, maputol. Okay? Second is specify the data type and length of the variable. So a variable can have any MySQL data types such as int, varchar, and datetime. So lastly, third, assign a variable a default value using the default option. If you declare a variable without specifying a default value, its value is null. So here's an example. The following declares a variable named myCustomers with a data type int and default value of 0. So, ga-declare na ta og myCustomers nga variable nga naay data type nga int 20 og default value nga 0. Here's another example. This time, two or more variables na atong i-declare. So, to declare two or more variables that share the same data type using a single declare statement, mo na siya atong baton. The following declares two integer variables x and y. It set their default values to 0. So, nag-declare daw ta og duha ka variables nga x and y. Na siya diri. So, nga na data type nga int and default value of 0. So, that's it for the using variables in stored procedures. And let's move on to the assigning variables, its syntax, and example. So, remember that guys na once a variable is declared, is it ready to use? And to assign a variable a value, you use the set statement. Statement syntax, which is set space variable name is equal to value, its value. Here's an example. Diri daw, nag-declare ta og variable nga total customer nga naay data type nga big int o naay default value nga 0. So, gamit ta og set para ang total customer nga value is mahimog 10. So, there guys, naghimot ang procedure nga get total customer using set. Then, dara atong variable nga gi-declare si total customer nga naay data type nga int default value 0. So, giset natin ang value into 10. Ayun, kani nga kuan kaya plus ani kay para ma-view nato ang atong gihimo nga set nato si total customer to 10. So, try to run ayun. So, kaya siya. Check din nato diri sa routines. Okay, pag-execute nato diri, dapat 10 ang magawas. Okay? That's it for the demo of the set. And another example is, in addition to the set statement, you can use the select into statement to assign the result of a query to a variable, shown in the following example. In this example, first, we declare a variable using a customer count. and initialize its value to 0, 0. Then use the select into statement, select into, to assign the customer count variable the number of customers selected from the customer table. So, sa Bisaya pa, so ang button ani nga code kay kung pila ka book ang customer, mao tong mahimo nga value ni customer count. So, here's the demo for the select into statement. We created a procedure named get total customer using select into. And inside the begin and end block, we declare a variable named customer count with a data type of int and default value of 0. So we'll use here a select into statement. So select count all into customer count from customer. So button ani is ang kung pila daw ka customer ang nasa customer table, mao tong mahimo nga value ni customer count. So here's the code to view nga mabutngan og value gyud si customer count. Then let's try to run. So accept siya and let's check sa routine. And let's try to execute. Here, 5 daw kabuok ang customer. So let's check sa customer table kung 5 ba gyud. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 yun ang customer.
Thank you, Mr. Poler. And next, we're going to variable scope. So what is a variable scope? A variable has its own scope that defines its lifetime. If you declare a variable inside the stored procedure, it will be out of scope when the end of statement of the stored procedure reaches. So meaning a variable scope is something the scope of the variable inside the stored procedure. So it begins at start and it ends at ends. So it cannot be called outside of that statement. So MySQL allows you to declare 2 or more variables that share the same name in different scopes, because a variable is only effective in its own scope. So meaning ani kung mag-name lugar tawag scope nga a horse sa usa nato ka procedure ug mag-name po tag horse sa pikas procedure, pwede ra to kay dili man sila nga kaila o wa sila connection kay lahi-lahi man sila scope, di ba? Lahi sila start ug end, so nakasulod na sila sa ilang own bubble. However, dili ni good programming practice tungod kay basin kadugayan ikaw ninoy mabiktima, ikaw maglibog. So nara a variable whose name begins at the @ sign is a session variable, so it's available, accessible until the session ends. Meaning ani, more siya global variable, instead of gamay lang yung scope, pwede nimo siya magamit sa whole session. So mao tong duha nga ang variable pwede nimo magamit locally or pwede nimo magamit locally kung magamit ka og @ sign. So next, mag-illustrate ta og gamit og variable. So as example here, so nagapon ang basics, ang delimiter, ang end, og pag-change back sa delimiter. So atong giname siya og get total products. So first, gi-declare nato ang total products, usa siya ka int og default siya kay 0. So next, we go select into total products. So kaning count nagpasabot ni nga mao ni ang int nga default 0. So mao na ang select into total products. Dayon kato lugar nga atong gi-create nga variable nga total products, magikan siya sa products table. And next, we select again the total products para mao siya ang atong i-display. And then atong i-end. So total product ang ngalan sa variable nga atong gihimo karon. ug dali ra pod siya sulod ani sa ato ang scope, dali ra pod siya magamit. So as we use go, and then ato siyang i-call, as you can see here, total products is equal to 13. That is because we also have 13 products in our table. So that is all. Thank you for listening, and you have now learned how to declare and use variables inside stored procedures.
Stored procedure parameters, syntax and demo examples. In this tutorial, you will learn how to create stored procedures with parameters, including in, out, and in-out parameters. So what is stored procedure parameters? Stored procedures have parameters. The parameters make the stored procedure more useful and reusable. A parameter in a stored procedure has one of the three modes: in, out, or in-out. So the first one is the in parameters. In is the default mode. When you define an in parameter in a stored procedure, the calling program has to pass an argument to the stored procedure. In addition, the value of an in parameter is protected. It means that even if you change the value of the in parameter inside the stored procedure, its original value is unchanged after the stored procedure ends. So in other words, the stored procedure only works on the copy of the in parameter. The second one is out parameters. The value of an out parameter can be changed inside the stored procedure, and its new value is passed back to the calling program. So notice that the stored procedure cannot access the initial value of the out parameter when it starts. In-out parameters. An in-out parameter is a combination of in and out parameters. So it means that the calling program may pass the argument, and the stored procedure can modify the in-out parameter and pass the new value back to the calling program. So this is the basic syntax on defining a parameter in stored procedures. So open and close bracket, in out, parameter underscore name data type, open and close bracket and parenthesis, length. So as you can see in this syntax, it specified the parameter mode, which can be in, out, or in-out, depending on the purpose of the parameter in the stored procedure. Second, specify the name of the parameter. The parameter name must follow the naming rules of the column name in MySQL. Third, specify the data and maximum length of the parameter. So, demo and examples.
So as you can see, I already made a database consisting of 7 columns and 5 rows and contains unique data in it. So for the in parameters, we will use in parameters here. So I've come up na what if ang title under sa title list mag atong gamiton to get the employees information sa atong employees nga table. So para mas masabtan mo proceed ta sa SQL nga command. And then here we inputted delimiter and then we assign it to a specific character depending on your choice. So in my case, I choose slash. So we created our procedure, which is the get employees by title, and then in title name varchar. So this statement serves as a holder sa atong procedure. I mean sa atong data nga na-collect sa procedure. Again ha, mo ni siya ang holder sa data nga na-collect ni procedure. So kabantay mo ni sa pinakaubos sa call, mo ni siya ang atong gi-input. So to execute ni nga statement, nagamat tag condition which is the beginning and end. So inside the beginning and end, nagamit ang mga SQL commands which is ang select all from employees table. Then mo ni ang condition nga where title name is equivalent to title. If it's true, then mo display siya. If it's false, wala siyang display. So, kibali in shortcut, in other words, kung kaning marketing specialist, title name man ni siya, na belong bigit siya sa title list. So, ato siyang i-run. So, okay, ni-run siya. Ni-input ang, unsa ni? Ang employees information ni nakuha nato, pinaagi ni title. Kanira ba atong gibutang, kabantay mo, marketing specialist, ratong gibutang dito ganina. So, mo ni siya ang in parameters. Depending sa imong choice, pwede gyapon to siya kuhaon nimo ning employees information gamit ang department nga list. So, i-change na nimo gamay ang mga variables ato, then makuha ra gyapon nimo siya sa kuan. Kani nga employees information. So, kani if naa gyapon siya title marketing specialist nga lahi, like same ra gyapon, different lang first name last name, mo display gyapon to siya. So in our case sa atong database ga solo ra man si marketing specialist good mo nang siya ra isa nga mo display. Pero if napay marketing specialist nga title lain, duha tulo upat depende sa database nga inyong pangita sa inyong gigamit, mo display siya. So as you can see, nagbag-o ato ang database na dungagan kay atong aim na ni is mag-get ang status sa kung kisa itong na-save nga multiple og existence. Kay sa atong database before, unique man siya. Wala man siya ikapareha. So kani atong ihapon kung pila iyang atong i-select kung pila kabuk pareha ang naa sa atoang database. So here sa SQL. So kani mo ni siya ang syntax, ang code. So ang delimiter gi-change na nato na siya sa lain nga character para mas ma-distinguish nato ana nga mo ni siya ang out parameter or depende ra gina siya actually sa imoa. So mo ni itong procedure, get tardiness count by status. So sunod naragyapon ang atong holder sa data nga na-collect ni procedure. Then kani ato ra ni siyang gi-declare, mo na siya ang out gidungagan nato. Gi-declare kung pila ka buok ang nahawid ni nahawiran ni in. Itong i-display na siya. Pila ka buok yung nahawiran. So begin. So dire atong basihan gyud ni dire ang condition which is sa e-status ug sa kung true ba gyud is equivalent to employee status ba gyud. So dire medyo na-gets man nato ni ganina no, medyo same ra siya, nadungan na siya total. So kani ang fired kumbaga mo na siya ang status. So kung true ni siya, mohapak din ni siya, mo proceed din ni siya dire sa tardiness. Mo na siya iyang ihapon. Padulong ni siya. Dayon pag maihap na niya, ipadulong din na siya ni total. Anya gagikan man sila sa employees nga table. So atong i-select kung pila gyud ang total nga nasulod dire. Pila ka buok data nga nasulod dire. So atong i-run. So mo ni siya. Ang nasulod didto kay duha ka buok ang na-fire sa tardiness nga list. So for the in-out parameters, so kani nga code or syntax wala na taga-base sa database. Nag-create na tag ato ang variable nga counter. So nag-create po tag procedure nga set counter. And then in-out counter int. So kaning counter mo ni siya ang holder sa imong gi-add. Sabtan na ninyo niya. Tapos kaning inc int mo ni siya ang imong i-add based sa imong gi-set ay imong gi-call nga parameter which is kani 115. So pag gumana na nagama din tag condition beginning end na pod tapos set counter is equal to counter plus inc. So ang counter kuno, ang total kuno aning duha ibalik ni counter. So kani set at counter is equal to 1. 1 lang 1 raman atong gi set nga i-add. So, yang gitawag counter 1. So, 1 plus 1 kay ang counter man value ani is 1. 1 plus 1 mo ni siya ang INC na karon ana para masabtan. 1 plus 1 di 2. Mobalik din na siya ni counter. Dayon, nag-call naman po taglain na parameter mo na siya. 1 na pod. So 2 plus 1 3. Dayon, nag-call pag tag isa 5. So 3 plus 5 is equals to 8. So ato na yung gi-display kay napulaan na taog kuan tawag-tawag. Mo na siya atong i-run kung 8 ba gyud. So nara, counter is 8. So that's all for the stored procedure parameters.
So hi guys, my name is Philip C. Samporna, and I will be discussing the trapping procedures and its syntax and demo examples. What is trapping procedures? So the drop procedure statement deletes a stored procedure created by the create procedure statement. So magamit mo siya ang drop procedure o nakay gusto i-delete sa nga stored procedure, nasayop baka sa mga name, something like that. Next. So this is the syntax of trapping procedure. Drop procedure, open bracket, if exists, and close bracket, then name of the stored procedure, then semicolon. Okay. In the syntax, first specify the name of the stored procedure that you want to remove after drop procedure keyword. So as you can see, nagyan na ang drop procedure, then after that, you misstate the stored procedure that you want to remove or delete, and then semicolon. And second, use if exists option to conditionally drop the stored procedure if it exists. With your drop procedure does not exist, without using the if exists option, MySQL issues an error. In this case, if you use the if exists option, MySQL issues a warning instead. So this is how it works, and as you can see, this is a sample. First, create a new stored procedure that returns employee and office information. So as you can see, we create procedure name, get employees, and then morning kaning first name, last name, city, state, country. Mao ni siyang gusto nimo isulod, mao ni isulod sa imong stored procedure nga get employees. And then second, use the drop procedure to delete the get employees stored procedure. So gusto niyo mo i-delete ang imong stored procedure, mao ni siya ang keywords. So I will demo the trapping procedure so you can understand. So guys, ito na pong demo sa using it exists nga option. So we drop procedure. May siyang walay guys, it exists. If go mo error ko guys. kung siya ay if exists. And then, when we use if exists, if exists, and then go,
Drop ni Kuan. Yawa kayo.
kung ano gawas guys. Ano to guys, thank you.